I'd like to thank the development team, the QA team, the AE team, who without all of their hard work, this presentation definitely wouldn't have happened. But I'd also like to thank lots of other people, our sales order processing team, our marketing team, everybody that's been involved in GibbsCAM has had a hand in this release in one environment or another. So I just want to say thanks very much to everybody that has made this happen and delivered on time. It's a fantastic release. It's very, very stable. We've had lots and lots of feedback already saying that it looks a very, very solid release. And I hope that in the next weeks and months that you'll also see all the advantages that Steve's going to walk you through. So further on, Vic, if I could ask you to press the go button. Go's a relatively important word in this release. As you can see, GibbsCAM 2022, for those that are on maintenance, as of October 1, 2021, you will be able to download this version and be able to use it. That's what part of your SMP entitlement allows. And I assure you, whilst I'm at the head of this organization, which I'm very proud to be, we will release a new version each and every year. We're moving away from once every 18 months or periodically. We will release a new version in October of every year. And the maintenance date will always be October 1 of that year. So as long as you stay on maintenance, you'll be able to continue to use the very, very latest of the GibbsCAM product. Just a quick image on the screen. You can see that GibbsCAM Go Milling has got a brand new brochure. We've renamed some of the packages rather than having lots and lots of modules. We're now talking about systems and Go systems. The Go brochures will be available for download in the next few days from the website. So as I said, Go's an important word. So let's go and look at the product. And Steve, over to you. But just before you start, questions, if you could type them into the chat window, be much appreciated. We will go through the questions at the end of the session. I'll read the questions to Steve and Steve will answer the questions if I am unable to, and if it's obviously very technical, I won't be able to. So with that said, Steve, over to you.
All right, thanks, Nick. Yeah, just a small introduction. Steve Offenbach, for those of you who don't know me. I'm senior applications, been with Gibbs for forever. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you through this 2022 version. It's very nice. There's some very cool functionalities, some things that I think are going to make your life really easy and a lot better. But if we could move on to the next, and let's get started. So the first topic we're going to talk about is surface modeling. We added a couple things here, and one of those things is extrude a sheet. Now we can always extrude a solid, but never a sheet. Okay. So in this, if we can keep moving here, Vic, what you're going to see here is we put together some nice little things here that you can go back and look at. They're going to be, I believe they're on the web. So basically, any piece of geometry, doesn't matter what it is, lines, splines, circles, doesn't matter. In the surfacing palette, we have a new button. Okay, so it allows you to extrude into a sheet. And we can always do a solid, but never a sheet. So basically, it works the same thing. It works the same way. Pick the geometry, and off you go. Now, in the new wire EDM, this becomes important because we're using cylinders as sheet cylinders as start locations. So this is going to be very nice functionality. So it's very cool. Okay, create a plane. Again, staying with surface modeling, if you've ever tried to take a piece of geometry and just build a surface over the top of it, or a plane over the top of it, to seal off a hole or a cavity, we made some changes to that, so now you don't have to do a bunch of work. So the way this whole thing works is, if you have some geometry like this that is not in the current coordinate system, okay, so it's not, in the surfacing palette, the very first button's a plane. Before, what you'd have to do is you'd have to create a coordinate system on that point, on that geometry, make the geometry part of that coordinate system, and then create a plane. You don't have to do that anymore. As long as it's not on the current coordinate system, it will go off and it will trim it automatically. So this is very cool for anybody who does this kind of stuff. I do a lot of machine sim building, and this becomes a very, very handy tool to patch up things or just make some simple surfaces that you can then take and extrude into a solid or do whatever you might have to do. So this is a very nice tool, made it really, really simple. All right, this has always been a little pet peeve of mine, and I don't mind saying it because I am application, so all you users that are out there, I mean, you understand the issue. Let's say we bring in a part and it's askew. So what we want to be able to do is quickly get it in the right orientation. Now with the new align functionality, you turn on the edges, you click an edge, and you will get a right mouse click that says align the edge to CSH. So it always aligns it to the horizontal axes, but at least at this point, we got the part in some orientation that we can actually use it. Okay, now you can align the surfaces and do some other things there too as well. We've always been able to do multiple selections to create a solid. The issue has been that you had to select the geometry in the proper order. Okay, so we have made some changes here. You can see we added taper and you can go plus or minus, which we've always been able to do. But the key here is that the order of selection now, it doesn't matter. Okay, and that was always the problem. I mean, you could do this and it worked all day long, but if you didn't work from the outside in, it didn't work. Okay, now it doesn't matter. The other thing that's kind of nice here, and we're just going to go through and build this whole part. I think it's kind of cool. The other thing that's kind of nice here is that we have two separate pieces of geometry. So we create two solids, but they become multi-lump bodies. So it makes it easy if you're building parts like this. Oh, I want to do, 10 circles and I want to subtract them from something. I can pick all the circles, extrude them. They automatically become a multi-lump body, and it becomes much easier to remove them. Or you can do one at a time, so it hasn't changed at all. Okay, so a couple different things here makes it really nice to create solids pretty fast with geometry now. Okay, plus you can go plus or minus, and there's some taper stuff in there too. All right, so section view. What does section view do? Well, this is something that allows us to slice through a complex model. So in the floating toolbar, you'll see a new icon there. If you click on it, you select the grid, the world there, and you see it turns blue. You can then drag this through the model and get yourself a section. Okay, so if there's some area in the model you're trying to see, or whatever the case may be, you can drag it through. You can also put it in an explicit point. So in this case, I just have a point on the screen. Now I can see at that exact level and slice through the model. Okay, so maybe I was looking for something, I don't know. Having trouble, or maybe want to see inside of a part, I don't know. Works in every coordinate system or any coordinate system that you create. So in this case, we just have the standard coordinate systems, but if you would create one on an angle or deeper inside the part, whatever the case may be, works throughout without any issues. It's pretty nice functionality to get in there and see the inside of a complex part. All right, let's talk a little bit about a couple of tool paths. For turning, for example, we've always done, as you can see in the bottom picture on the right there, whenever we would create a tool path in turning, we'd always have a radius on the corner, and there was no way to make it sharp. Simple thing, now you have a switch inside the dialog there where you can switch it, and you'll see in the top picture there that the corners are all sharp now. So instead of going around the corner, you're going to make a nice sharp move. So that's something simple there. All right, now this one is really nice. This one they've taken a few different things and kind of combined them together, which is really, really handy. So here what I'm going to do, typically what everybody does, let's just create a simple contouring process. And then we're going to go turn on the profiler. So we just want to cut this slot here. And we're going to drag the markers. Now in this case, I just want to cut that top edge. So what we've done here is move start and endpoint combines the functionality. So you can say, hey, I want a single feature here. I want it relative to the start, and then I want it relative to the end, which is very nice. Or if you knew absolutely where it was in X and Y, you could type that in. So they give you a couple more choices here, and plus they put it all together in one dialogue, which makes it really nice. Okay, so that's a really nice added piece of functionality. Okay, so multi-shape pre-drilling. Okay, this was something that people have been asking for. Again, I've been with the company for a long time. So here we have some geometry, and you can always do one. We do pre-drill with Gibbs, always been able to do that. But with geometry, you could never really do it with multiple pieces of geometry, okay? So in this case, I'm just going to set up what I would normally set up as a pre-drill. Now it's always work with solids because, solids, it makes it pretty simple. We'll just set some depth just to have something. And you all know that we changed the way we do offsetting, so you can change it. Hey, I want, what side, inside, outside, whatever I want to do there. And then I'm going to go along and just pick the geometry. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is how I pick the geometry. So if I pick that line, and I'm going to pick that radius, and that radius, and that line there, and that line there, and the radius, and the radius, and that line. And then when we say do it, what I want you to pay attention to is you see where the point starts. So the drill starts on that line, or it'll start at the radius, or on that side of that line, or that side of the line. So it matters which piece of geometry you pick, where it's going to start, which I think is really cool. So you can pick and choose what you really like to do there. This is very nice. So massive improvements in the volume mill. The toolpath is definitely faster. So when you have a part like this, the time it takes to actually generate the toolpath is extremely faster. Okay, so that's pretty cool. The other thing, staying with volume mill, is improve the where it starts. This is not going to be 100%. Okay, I'm not going to lie, but at least this gives us the hint on where we want to start. Okay, so they've added something in here. It's just because of the nature of volume mill. So we'll set our depth, and normally all the things that you would do with volume mill, but down here now we have a start side. And what I want to say is I want you to try to start on the X positive side all the time. So no matter what I do, I want you to start on that side of X, or it could be that side of Y, whatever. I just happen to choose X. And you can see there the helix is on the positive side of X. What I'm going to do is let's just show you that it does actually work. We'll change it to the X minus. We'll redo the toolpath. And you can see it's pretty fast actually, because that's actually real time. We didn't cut that up at all. And now you can see that it's on the other side of X. So nice functionality. It's going to help you out a lot. I know a lot of guys use volume mill, so I think this is really nice. All right, 5-axis. This is brand new functionality. This rotary machining is really, really kind of slick. If you're doing any kind of screws, big threads, this is really, really nice. Now, we want to keep in mind that this is for roughing, not necessarily for finishing. You have a rotary machining, roughing. You can do radiuses. This is kind of neat to mess around with. You can do spiraling or just offset. It just depends what you want to do. The really nice thing here is the ability to offset in Y. And everybody thinks that, hey, let's make these screws, we'll just cut it on center. Yeah, not so much. A lot of times that doesn't work. So here we're going to pick all the surfaces. You can set the axis of rotation. So depending on what type of machine you have, how your axis is set up, and it will go off and generate a really, really nice tool path. So for deburring, also in 5-axis, this is very cool. This is something I think it needed from the beginning. And the fact of the matter is now you can do a step over. So you can either do it a constant width or a radius. So it just depends what you want. So in this case, we're just going to do a flat and we're going to say 8 cuts. Now, it's not going to give you, like if you want an 80 thousandths flat, it's not going to give you that. It's going to take 8 cuts and divide it up and give you what it gives you. But at the end of the day, you have a choice of either a flat, which is it's cutting right now, or actually it's going to cut a radius, which again is very cool. So now you have a choice. So it's either a flat or a constant blended edge. This is a very, very, very nice improvement to the software. Okay, contact point. What this allows us to do is to set a distance so that you can use the side of the tool to generate a deburring cut, as it were. Okay, so we're going to go in here. We're going to set this up, deburring, and make sure that it's set down here, you see? So what that 1/4 inch is going to be is past the edge of the part, or the end of the end mill is going to be a 1/4 inch past. And you can then use the side of the tool to generate the deburring, which is, I mean, people want to do that. So I think these improvements are going to be very useful. Okay, polar IJ. Okay, this is a bit hard to explain, but basically if you have a machine that doesn't have a Y-axis, this will allow us to do and all these are basically deburring, allow you to do this without having a Y-axis on your machine. So basically you're going to set it all up, cut it, tool axis control. It needs to be set up in three axis. And then what we have is a op modifier that you go in and you say, hey, I want you to change this. And you say, do it. And what that's going to do then, instead of the tool driving along, it's actually going to drive the rotary axis. So you'll see this in the simulation where the result is the actual rotary axis is moving, which if you don't have a Y-axis on your machine, it's not possible to do what we just did. So this at least will give you the ability for that rotary axis to move. Okay, dual contact. Again, this is one of these, when you're doing geodesic and you want to select two, like it's going to, the ball mill is going to touch 2 different faces. It basically adjusts the tilt. And a lot of these things are hard to show. I give Dan Arrington a lot of credit. Some of these things are difficult to actually show, very specific to specific things that you're trying to accomplish. So that just helps us keep the tool a bit more stable and minimizes the tilt. Again, automatic tilting. Again, these things are difficult to show, but for collision checking, propagation direction is kind of cool. If you use geodesic, what this allows you to do is draw some geometry. Maybe you're cutting a surface and you only want to cut on the left side of it. So you can draw a line or you can draw a boundary and say, oh, by the way, I only want to do one side, not the other. And it does that pretty well. Or if you drew a box down the center, it would do either side of the box, or it would just do what's inside the containment shape. So that's a really nice piece of functionality as well if you're using geodesic. Again, these are all surface normal tilt limit things. If you're really into this, trying to get these things down in there, All these things are something you can get in there and mess around with and control all the tilt angles and all the different things in 5-axis. And there's a ton more little odds and end things in there that you can read the documents and go through all that stuff. The big ones are the rotary, the deburring, and the geodesic stuff is really, really sweet. All right, simulation. Okay, this is something that people have asked, and I know they've asked me 1,000 times for. And so what we've done is we've added something in the simulation that should help. So let's say we have this part here, okay? And it's a simple part, so, and most generally when we're doing this kind of stuff, they are simple parts. Maybe not, but maybe they have lots of tool paths, or maybe you're going to have, in this case, we don't have that many. But maybe in some cases you have 100, okay, in a grid. Well, I really don't want to watch 100 parts render because I don't need to. I only need to make sure that the first one is right. So you'll see in the rendering, it looks like a little tombstone. If you click on that, it takes all that and turns it off. So you just have one single block. Everything is still there, okay? It just for rendering purposes, it turns off all the rest of them. And then it allows you to go in and just see this one block, as it were. So again, this makes it really nice. So you don't have to watch, and it works in tombstone management. It works everywhere. Okay, again, for turning, we've definitely sped up for the sub-spindle machines. So the 3D material on the sub-spindle is much, much better. And we have sped up the simulation for MTM. Also faster start at op, okay, at op start. And I think that's what we're going to talk about next. Okay. Okay, so start at op. This is a very cool now, okay? So we've always been able to do this a bit with milling, but not much with turning. And what this allows us to do is you set an operation up. Let's say you build a bunch of tool paths, but I don't want to see the whole thing run. I see part of it. I know it's good. I only want to see the end of it. So now in turning, we allow you to go in, set a stop. So it will jump to that operation that you say, hey, start at this operation, and we'll jump there. And everything before that will be shown rendered as a completed part. We never really did it in turning. We've had it in milling, but not so much in turning. But now it works across the board, and it works pretty good. I use it all the time now. It's very, very nice. Okay, machine support. What does this mean here? All right, machine configurations. Now this is another really big part of the kinematic part of this release. Part of this is if I have a machine that has multiple configurations, which I mean by, in this case, a machine that may have a trunnion, okay? But that trunnion doesn't reside on this machine all the time, all right? We've given you a configurations button. The MDD is what handles all this stuff. So in the MDD, you would create a configuration that has a trunnion, or nothing, or angle plates, or whatever the case may be. So in this example, this is just a 5-axis trunnion that we're running today. But maybe tomorrow, we need to tear that off, and we're just going to put a vise on there. In the past, you would need a whole nother machine sim, a whole nother MDD. Now, we just switch to a fixed table, and now we have a completely different configuration. So one setup of machine sim, one MDD, one post, and you're good to go. So this is really, really kind of cool. Okay. And it's for this is a simple machine. Well, let's say we wanted to talk about the really complex stuff. Okay. And a shout out to Andy because I didn't do any of this. I'm just talking about it. So in this case, we have multiple configurations. Okay. So we want to show that we have, we have tools, we have tool blocks, we have B-axis on this Swiss style machine, and we're just going off and rendering it, and that looks pretty cool. So on the next setup, maybe we just have a thread whirler. So we'll go in and say, hey, no tools, and just show me the thread whirler. That's all I want to see. So now you see all this stuff got taken away. Now in the past, you would have had to have a whole nother setup. You would have had to have a whole nother MDD. Okay? Don't have to do that anymore. This is very, very, very cool functionality here. This is really, really powerful stuff. And again, yeah, I'm going to switch it back. Let's go ahead and put the B-axis back on. And again, just trying to show you different combinations of things that you can have for this configuration stuff. It's very nice. Again, it does, you have to go in and do some things in the MDD. But at the end of the day, if you're doing this type of stuff, you have multiple configurations. You want to do, again, rotaries or angle plates on a machine or whatever those cases may be. In this case, we're changing B-axis and all kind of really cool things. Works really well. Okay, so for milling machines at the moment, we do a lot of stuff now with these mill turn machines where you have a mill that has 5 axes on it and it can do turning. We can now go in the MDD and switch on. So on the milling machines, you can have cylindrical stock automatically. So as you can see, you can pick either cylindrical or a square piece of stock, which is kind of cool. I mean, otherwise you have to, go in and create the stock and do all these different things. In this case, it basically takes care of it for you. Okay, that is the highlights of this version of software. So I went kind of quick, but I think it's really, really nice, solid pieces of functionality in this version of software.
So, question that I have from Eric, is there a way to organize the operation tree with folders? It gets pretty busy if you have lots of operations and work coordinates.
At the moment, no.
Okay. So comment from me, Eric, I will feed that back. Vic Baker is actually on the call as well. So Vic Baker joined us about 7 months ago. I think Vic, correct me if I'm wrong. He's our GibbsCAM product marketing manager. It's very different to development, but his role is to understand what you, our valued customers, want in the product so that we can schedule it in the roadmap and the development roadmap of what we work on moving forward. So there's a very good instant feedback from one of our customers that is requesting something.
Right.
So we'll certainly take that as a message, and we'll certainly come back to you. Lee, will we be able to get a copy of this presentation? Yes, we will. In fact, we could put it on our website. Once we put it on our website, we'll send that message.
I believe that all the little videos that you saw are already posted up on the website. I think they're already there. So if you have access to that, you should be able to just go up there and watch them as well.
Okay, thanks, Steve. James has said, any special process when updating the floating license for version 22? My team department seems to be having issues. James, in this environment, I'd normally tell anybody that's having a support question to go to their reseller, but licensing is an exception. If you have a licensing issue, let's feed that back into GibbsCAM support. So support@gibbscam.com. Okay, I think I've covered the questions. So that just leads me to say thank you very much for everybody joining, and I look forward to presenting GibbsCAM 2023 in about 12 months' time.